Hi, so I'm Paul Redmond. I'm a generational expert. I'm going to talk to you about generations and the impact that generational change is having in the world of work. Of course, the world has been changing dramatically over the last year, and at the forefront is the impact it's having on generations. So people often say to me, which generation do I belong to? How do I know which generation I belong to? But I'm going to argue that what's crucial in terms of generations is not particularly what was happening when you were born, it's the things that are happening as you're growing up. So every one of us is a member of a generation, and our generations are defined by things that are happening while we're growing up and those defining moments in our lives. But I've got an exercise that I like to run by different groups of people when I go and speak to them. First of all, I want you to speculate on the connection between these two items. First of all, an audio cassette, and what's the link with an HB pencil? Now, for some of you, I'm sure, baby boomers, Generation X will know instinctively what the link is between a pencil and an audio cassette. The rest of you, though, might be thinking, what on earth is this? In which case, that reveals your generation. The second question I want to set to you is this: what might be accomplished with just 64 kilobytes of memory? Now, when I speak to younger groups, they say to me, obviously nothing. Nothing can be done with 64 kilobytes of memory. Then I say, yes, it can. This can happen with 64 kilobytes of memory. NASA went to the moon and back with just 64 kilobytes of memory. Half the memory it takes to run one Uber app. So the world is changing, and every one of us is a member of a generation. But of course, we can't see our own generation. It's just other people who seem strange to us. Think about this. Your iPhone can power 120 million Apollo rockets. And for us, we just grow up and take it as granted. So this is what I've been looking at. Every generation, every one of us is a new people. Every generation sees the world in its own generationally specific way. I have been focusing on different generations. So there are currently 6 generations in the world of work, just about. And they range from the silent generation, or as the Americans call them, the great generation, right up to Generation Alpha, the generation that are currently in the world of work today. Most of my work at the moment is focusing on the millennials and, of course, Generation Z, those who are just coming into the workplace today. However, I do a lot of work with Generation X and baby boomers, who are often the managers, the leaders of organizations. So with this research that I've been doing, I want to give you 3 tips that you can look at in your own organization. My 3 C's for how you can manage and motivate a multi-generational team, particularly in the context that we're working on. Number 1, my first tip is connect. You can't connect with every generation as if they see the world in the same way that your generation does. What's absolutely important is to listen. Richard Branson talks about this at Virgin, that the most important attribute for all their top leaders is the ability to listen. So when I work with different groups, different leadership groups, what I get them to do is to learn how to keep their opinions to the end. Let everyone else, other generations, speak first, and you go at the end. The key message, the key question for leaders to ask is this: WDYT, what do you think? Practice asking other people, particularly younger people, what do they think? And make sure that you listen to their opinions rather than just speak yourself. So that's my first tip. The second tip linked to this is, of course, reverse mentoring. Get yourself a reverse mentor. If you want to find out how other generations see and think and view your organization, get yourself a mentor who's at least 2 generations younger than yourself. 1 or 2 generations younger than yourself. And I promise you, you will see your organization in a different perspective. My second tip, my second C, is collaborate. The importance of working with different generations is absolutely essential today. Strangely enough, while we've got lots of different policies in organizations about equality and diversity, only 8% of organizations have a policy for building multi-generational teams. So make sure that your organization starts thinking about multi-generational teams and how you can work with different groups and different demographic groups according to their age and background. In the past, I think over the last few years, we've thought very much about the importance of recruiting young people with digital intelligence, DQ. But of course, organizations can't just function with digital intelligence. They need something else. They need EQ, emotional intelligence. The thing about emotional intelligence is that you need age and experience in order to develop emotional intelligence. So if your organization is going to thrive, you need digital intelligence and you need emotional intelligence. And for that, you need a multi-generational policy to bring everyone together. And the third C is, of course, culture. Culture is absolutely critical in organizations because As John DeDulius says, your customers will never be any happier than your employees. Make sure that your staff are being looked after and treated and developed according to their generation. Don't treat them at all as the same generation. We've got to bear in mind, millennials see the world of work and Generation Z in a very different way from previous generations. Generation X said, show me the money. Boomers said, show me the opportunities. Millennials say, show me the opportunity to have fun. They expect work to be fun. So this is a key thing for organizations to be able to engage with and think about. In the past, we used to think about the first 100 days. For millennials and for Generation Z, what matters the most for them is the first day. Make sure that their first day gives them that unique experience, and the chances are you'll hold on to them. So think about that. If you want to develop a multi-generational team, connect, collaborate, and focus on the culture. And I promise you, your team will start coming together again.